Well, thank you so much for joining me. Can you introduce yourself, what you're running for, and when your race is?
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Adam Dunigan. I'm a former Marine, ex-CIA case officer, currently running for Congress in Virginia's 8th District.
And that will be a primary first, yes?
Correct. That's might get weird with the redistricting, but yeah, our vote right now, as scheduled, is June 16th.
Okay. And you are challenging Don, who's been at that seat for a good bit. He holds that seat now. What's the reasoning there? Like, what is the gap between what you think the district needs and what it is or isn't getting from its current representative?
Yeah, it's a complex question. I think right now it's pretty important that new leaders step forward and try to breathe some life back into the Democratic Party. We've been losing for so long, and I guess I saw some of the failures of the Democratic Party in the past, and the idea that we can keep doing what we've been doing and things will get better is kind of the definition of insanity. So I thought coming out of the intelligence community and having been abroad and seeing how the playbook of authoritarianism works overseas, seeing a lot of the same signs happening in our own country made me feel motivated to get out there and try to do something from a more editorial role than I could have being undercover with the CIA. So that's why I'm here.
I didn't realize that you were coming out of the CAA. You and Spanberger.
Yeah, it's our girl Abby. So her and I, she won't remember this, but her and I actually shook hands back in the day when we were still working together. But
I met her when she was in Congress. She was my congresswoman, and I went to a town hall and asked her a question about gun control and burst into tears. And that was the first
oh
time
no,
I met her. And then I met her later when she was on the campaign trail, last year. And she was like, "You look familiar." And I was like, "Yeah, it's because I made a complete fool of myself in front of you and like on you." So
yeah.
that was amusing. Anyway, okay.
Spamberger. It's funny that you mentioned Spamberger because I think like her victory also gave a lot of us confidence that our backgrounds are relevant and useful, and people still look up to us as a possible leader, authority figure, which wasn't always the case coming out of organizations like this. And also, I think Spamberger's victory specifically here, her first one when she ran for Congress, everybody doubted her until the moment she won, and then everybody said, "Oh, she was always the darling of the Democratic Party."
Nope.
Yep. And yeah, it's funny how victory has many fathers and defeat is an orphan. We suffer from that in this party too occasionally.
So true. So what problem in the eighth do you think is most urgent, but like least talked about?
Yeah. I think for this region specifically, Northern Virginia, but this goes outside the area too. The obvious one is the firing of federal workers by Doge and the continued layoffs from the Trump administration. That's first and foremost in my mind because not only am I offended morally by good federal officers and workers having their careers ruined on the whim of 22-year-olds at Doge that were unqualified to be in the building, let alone in charge of it. Um, the other part of that is the knock-on economic effects of those firings. We're not going to feel those for 6-8 months. These families are still out there like trying to make rent and trying to find new jobs. I think we're up 53% year over year for unemployment seeking, and that's not just affecting those families. That's affecting local businesses and economic activity and the potential for new businesses to be founded. Like the effects of what Doge did still haven't really been felt fully, and that's going to come out over the next year or so unless we can provide relief to those kinds of families, which is what I'm focused on.
So that would be your first priority in Congress.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes. It goes two different ways though, because my first priority is making sure that my constituents in this area are taken care of 100% and like looking for ways to give them back their careers that they lost 100%. But the other part of that is accountability. I have this my plan. I'm calling it 8 for 8. It has 8 different priorities or areas that we're going to focus legislation and attention on. But one of the main pillars underscoring all of those 8 is accountability, consequence, right? If you broke federal law, if you violated the Constitution, there has to be consequences. We can't just talk about it anymore. We have to demonstrate to our voters and to ourselves as a nation that we still do believe in rule of law. I think we lost that, and that's definitely going to be a focus for me.
Yeah, agreed. So your district, the eighth, is a pretty blue area. It's the general election is not usually very competitive in the midterm. So what does effective representation look like then in a place where the general's not terribly competitive.
It looks like me, baby. No, it what I
Yeah.
what I mean by that is I think a healthy primary amongst Democrats is probably the best way that you can get to something that feels like effective representation, right? No offense to the current incumbent, Congressman Beyer. I actually respect the man quite a lot, but we can't keep running millionaires in their 70s and expecting to engage younger voters and swing voters, these centrist type people. It's a natural impediment to getting any sort of engagement in the democratic process. So I think effective representation in this district specifically. This district is home to the Pentagon, and it is physically home to the CIA and half the federal workforce. That's me. I am an avatar of all these things, and I think my skills and perspective from each of those different categories of my identity will like lead well into leadership. So that's here. But if you're asking effective leadership or representation from other districts like this that are safe blue, we should be using these districts to train up and platform new leaders for the next generation that we're going to need in Congress with experience before the next crisis hits. We are going to inherit the consequences of the decisions made by leadership in Congress right now,
Uh,
and everything we're seeing right now. And I don't think anybody thinks that politics is going great for us as a country. All of those are consequences by the former generation and decisions they made. So unless we want to stay in that cycle, which I don't personally, and I think you don't probably either, most of us don't, then we need to make an intentional choice to step out of it, which I think candidates like me in districts like this can offer.
so when you get to Congress, how do you balance like, being a reliable blue vote in Congress, voting with the caucus, whatever, with being willing to like challenge this generation of 70 and 80-year-old leadership who've been sitting in there forever and like know how to get things done and all of that stuff that they tell us about themselves. Like, what's the balance there?
That they do tell us, yeah.
They do tell us that.
I think that comes down to values, right? I think if hypothetically we were to get a majority back in the legislature after 2026, which could happen, and I do want that to happen, even if we get that majority, votes on things like affordability and quality of life and returning some sense of normalcy to Americans, those won't be controversial. That's not a real values judgment that we have to make on those things. Where I would be challenging party leadership is on those values issues. I think
Mm.
we have for a long time as a Democratic Party ceded so much ground to the Republicans for get along to go along kind of votes where I think that the compromise on the shutdown is a perfect example. I understand the impulse to get feds paid again and keep the economy flowing the way they want to go, but there was a moral issue in that vote. And I think that's why, even though it could have been the logistically, mechanically best vote to do, everyone was so angry because we surrendered again on a promise for something that still hasn't materialized and definitely won't. We all see this. Like I'm not a politician just yet, right? So as a voter and as somebody in the federal architecture, I felt those emotions too. And I want to make sure that when I get into office, the challenges that I would make to party leadership are going to be on those moral issues. We cannot compromise on our values over and over and over again because it gets us nowhere and we lose the faith of the electorate.
Hmm. So how can people support you, whether they're in your district or not?
So if you want to support us, obviously this is grassroots. I'm not taking any sort of PAC money or big corporate donations. So I do need political donations, and I hate asking it. I'm still not used to it, but it's true. But I know people are struggling out there too, and I'm not trying to make people go broke for my benefit here. If you want to get in touch, follow us on socials, boost us, just spread the word. And I'm listening. So if you feel passionately about any of the issues that I'm talking about or that we've talked about, you and I, Amanda, get in touch. Like send an email to the campaign. I have visibility on all that stuff. I'm still, relatively small and working my way up, but I'm reading everything, and I value the opportunity for conversation with people who care about these things. Doesn't matter if you live here or not.
In and of itself, having a representative who like reads your emails would be such a would be such
Case
a.
all the time. Yeah.
I'm in Whitman's district, and I know for a fact he doesn't read anything that I
Get them.
I plan to. I plan to. Well, thank you so much for your time and best of luck on your race.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me, Amanda. Talk to you.